Hello there again, Doug Marshak here. You may know me from past hits like, no, the referee could have actually done something different, and when coaches throw conniption fits on the field and get booked, they're actually making it all about themselves rather than making the referee make it about themselves. I said when I released the video from the MSHSL quarterfinal that I would turn the sword on myself, and that's what this is. This is the Section 7-2A boys final from last year in Duluth. This is me in the middle, and this is the ending of that game. The red team is Duluth-Denfeld. They were the #1 seed, and they are trailing 3-2 with about a minute left, and they're attacking the left side of the screen. So let's have a look at what happened.
I've never seen this automatic because that guy was outside the box.
So this is obviously a pretty wild sequence of events, which was compounded by my own physical and mental errors. So let's go through it step by step. First off, Denfeld, the red team, is down a goal, wins a throw-in deep in their own defending half. Now, as a referee, tactical situational awareness is very important in order to anticipate play and be in the right position. Anybody in their right mind would probably expect Denfeld, the red team, to lump the ball forward in a hurry because they're down a goal with a minute left, trying to get the ball into scoring position. So where should the referee, that's me, be? Probably heading forward. The referee has to take a calculated risk here. If White, Cloquet, they were the third seed, really wants to win this game, they should press the living hell out of this throw-in and not allow Red to have any type of uncontested long ball or pass forward. So that could involve physical play. Maybe they could foul them to slow things down or get their players behind the ball. You could argue the referee should anticipate that. But keep in mind that a challenge in the middle of the field of a one-goal game in the last 2 minutes is probably not as critical as the need to evaluate a challenge in the attacking third under the same circumstances. I dawdled in the area of the throw-in, and I got caught in the midfield when Denfeld was able to quickly transition the ball into a breakaway. The ensuing calamity of events is almost inevitable here, but I'm going to break them down. The red striker and white goalkeeper go into a 50-50 challenge. The ball pops out away from goal, outside the penalty area. I'm caught out of position. I'm going to take an educated guess here, and I'm going to read it as a good tackle by the goalkeeper, which is actually supported in the video. The goalkeeper does get the ball first. That's luck, not skill on my part. I'm reading a play based on physics instead of actually seeing whether or not a foul took place. Experience, yes. Bad positioning also. The ball gets trapped under the goalkeeper, and it's unclear on this video whether he swats it away with his hand outside the penalty area, mind you, or it just inadvertently bounces off his arm, which he's using to support himself, at which point he then gets up and clears it with his foot. To be absolutely honest, I don't know, and I still don't know which is the case. I've watched this thing a million times. The video just doesn't show conclusively whether any contact of the ball to the arm is deliberate on the part of the goalkeeper or incidental. The Denfeld coach obviously wanted the call, and to this day will probably tell me that the goalkeeper swatted the ball. It's not a penalty kick, it's outside the penalty area, and I want to emphasize this, it is not dog-so, because there are no Denfeld players within playing distance of the ball. The Denfeld team did have a kid who could absolutely score from a free kick from about 20 yards, however, so not calling a free kick on this play is still a huge decision. And I can't say whether an offense took place because I was not in position to make that judgment. The lead assistant raises his flag. In that split second, he thinks he sees the goalkeeper deliberately handle the ball. I never see the lead assistant's flag because when the goalkeeper clears the ball up the field to the opposite touchline, I turn to follow the ball, and the assistant referee then puts his flag down. The rest of what happens here is sheer frustration about all these non-decisions. So a red defender ignores the ball on the clearance and absolutely destroys a white attacker instead of playing the ball. That's serious foul play. I halt play for the foul, and I'm going to the back pocket when another Denfeld player gets in my face and screams, and I quote, "How the fuck is that not a red card on the goalkeeper?" He gets sent off too. So the crowd's howling in anger at our, quote, missed, unquote, call, which, again, I'm going to say we may have missed it. I go to explain the cards. So remember my quarterfinal video when I said players who get sent off for abusive language falls under the, yeah, we got to explain that to the coach and that's okay in high school soccer category? So that's what I'm doing. And during the explanation, the coach, who's still upset but is acting within reason, tells me that the assistant referee raised his flag. I told the coach I didn't see that, but I said before we restart, I will go talk to the assistant referee and find out why he raised his flag. But I also told the coach that both of these red cards would stand regardless of the outcome of that conversation. Now, during this process, my fourth official then tells me that one of the kids on the bench for Denfeld threatened him when he tried to get him to move back off the field. So I took his advice and also sent off that substitute. Now, mind you, he's a substitute, so that doesn't impact the number of players on the field. I cross the field to the assistant referee and I ask him if he raised his flag and what for. And he tells me he did raise the flag initially because he thought he saw the goalkeeper handle the ball. But then he quickly became unsure and he put the flag down. So I put him on the spot. I said, this is really important. I need a yes or no. Did the goalkeeper handle the ball outside the penalty area? And he said no. So I signaled for a white free kick in midfield. So then, of course, the Denfeld coach goes in on the assistant referee from across the field, screaming at him in frustration. I've known this coach for over 20 years. He's a great guy. His frustration, completely understandable here. His criticism here, in my opinion, was a little misdirected, which I'll explain in a minute. But I also think it was justified. He didn't swear. I let him finish. I then pulled out a yellow card and I said, okay, you've said your piece. We're going to move on now. And he nodded and he didn't say anything more. So there's some interesting footnotes to this that help explain my poor positioning and the outrage over this incident. So first of all, the striker who ends up with the scoring chance had been booked earlier in the match. And let me say that this kid is spirited, but also a really good kid who I could work with. I could talk to him and understand his point of view while also he could understand mine. So he's not one of these players who just is always right and the referee is a jerk and is always wrong. The problem was that once he was in the book, the white team's goalkeeper took every opportunity in the second half to try to wind that kid up to get a second yellow card against him. I could see it happening. So most of the second half, as Denfeld was trying to come from behind and putting through balls into the penalty area for the striker to chase, I would go flying into that penalty area behind the striker just to provide some presence to ensure that the goalkeeper didn't get away with something that would trigger a second yellow on the striker. By the time we got to the end of this game, I was physically gassed. I have no doubt that my physical fatigue parlayed into mental fatigue, and it played a significant role in my failure to anticipate what should have been a logical position off that Denfeld throw-in. So some of you are going to say, how to get in better shape and deal with it. So I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to talk about fitness at the end and also some like bigger problems with the officiating world. So second, my crew and I were using beeper flags in this game. So beeper flags are a great tool for assistant referees, but if you don't have a ton of experience with them, you can fail to take advantage of what they provide. So if you notice that when the ball gets caught under the goalkeeper, the lead assistant referee raises his flag. He didn't need to do that. He could have just buzzed me and then stared a hole through the back of my head, and I would have immediately known that he had something for me. But he hadn't worked with beeper flags before, and so he raises his flag in response to what he thinks is a handling offense, and of course everybody sees it. If he buzzes me, then nobody sees it, and that wouldn't have put him on the spot. So that's not to blame my assistant referee for what happened, because again, he didn't have very much experience. I'm sure people will be quick to jump on him for making an uncertain decision that he then waffled on from halfway across the field. But you know what? I was the guy in the middle with 24 years of experience, and I should know that Denfeld's going to launch it forward. I knew this was going to be a horse race and that I needed to support him. I put him in that situation. If I had anticipated that play, I would have broken forward. I would have broken wide away from the assistant referee, but long before the ball ends up in the 50-50 challenge. And I would be the one making the decision on whether the goalkeeper handled the ball here. So that's why I feel the head coach's anger after that final decision was misdirected. He should have been disappointed with me, not with my assistant. And maybe because I've known that head coach for so long, maybe that's why he went in on the assistant, because he didn't want to yell at me, or maybe he just wanted to voice his frustration at the assistant's indecisiveness. Either way, this is one of the things I constantly tell up-and-coming referees to stay persistent with, and that is never let your ARs get abused. And I mean, never ever do that. Never let your ARs get trashed. You may have a longer leash for what you take from the technical area from coaches, but your assistants have zero protection for themselves. The only person out there who can rein a coach in who's killing an AR from the technical area is the referee. And if you sit there and let it happen, you are throwing your teammate under a bus. You're not being a good teammate. So I wasn't going to sit there and let the head coach, show up the assistant from across the field. Not saying he wasn't justified in his frustration. I'd already set a standard earlier in this match, so Denfeld had tied the game at 2-2 in the first half, and on that play I thought that the Denfeld player had put the ball into the goal off his arm. I thought I had a decent view of the play, but after I called it off, called the handball, my assistant referee, the other one, who is vastly more experienced, buzzed me, then waved me over and told me he was 100% certain that the ball went in off the attacker's chest. So I respected that he would have a better view than me looking down the goal line at this, so I went with his decision. I overruled my call, and I gave the goal. And of course, the Cloquet, the white team bench, was very upset, and one of the assistant coaches on that bench went after the AR, even after I told them the decision was final. Later in the match, the same assistant referee calls a throw-in for Denfeld that the Cloquet bench didn't agree with, and the same assistant went in on him again, and this time I pulled no punches. Straight yellow card to the assistant coach, And when I explained it to the head coach, I told him that if the assistant went in on either assistant referee again, the assistant would be dismissed, and the head coach would also get cautioned for failing to control his bench. And the head coach was totally cool with that. The idea of which coach to card on the bench is an elongated discussion that I'm not going to get into here. So, you can argue about it in the comments if you want. I don't care. So I get the Denfeld coach's frustration at the end, and I obviously accept my role in creating it. He walked out of his technical area to scream across the field at the lead assistant on that play, and technically that is grounds for a red card, if I wanted. But I had just sent off 3 of his kids for bad choices, and even though I didn't know if we got the handling call right or wrong, the reason that we didn't know is on me. He didn't say anything personal in his shouting. I wasn't going to send him off in this situation because I felt like that would have been tone deaf. The difference between his behavior and his players is that he never made it personal or threatening, and he also waited to voice his dissent until he had given us a chance to get the call correct. That's going to be important for the next video in this non-series, which I will get to probably in another week or 2. For the record, I later received additional video of the match showing that the goalkeeper, after he clears the ball from the incident, he gets up and he then turns to the Denfeld student body and taunts them. Mind you, high school soccer has a strict rule on taunting and defines it as a red card offense. Considering that I was utterly gassed from spending the entire second half charging into the penalty area on every through ball to make sure that this goalkeeper didn't provoke the striker who is already in the book, him getting away with this still haunts me on this. I wish we had caught this action. I'd already sent 3 of the red players off for this play. I had booked their coach over the incident, and the goalkeeper got off with a send-off level offense by provoking the opposing call, and I am horribly disappointed that we as a crew, all 4 of the officials in the crew, missed this. I know why. I was obviously dealing with the serious foul play and the dissent in the middle of the field. My team side assistant referee and 4th official were also monitoring behavior, and when the ball was cleared, it came directly toward them, so they're not going to be staring at the goalkeeper after the play. The assistant referee had to pick up the offside line. The 4th official was dealing with the eruption on the bench, and the far side assistant referee was dealing with the stress of trying to decide whether he was going to report a handling offense or not and miss the taunting himself. Again, inexperienced. So, nonetheless, with 3 red players sent off and the red coach also yellow carded over the incident, something to balance that out would have helped. And honestly, the white goalkeeper's behavior on this is nothing short of despicable. It's inappropriate. If he ended up hurting his team by being suspended for their state quarterfinal because he felt the need to rub it in the face of the red team, I wouldn't have felt bad about that in the least. I just never saw him do it. I don't have any guilt over the 3 red cards that were issued on this play. The serious foul was brutal. The kid was frustrated about the no call. I know that Denfeld probably lost its last chance to tie the game when it wasn't called, but potentially injuring an opponent is not the way to cope with that. And that was clearly no play on the ball, basically done with no care for the well-being of the Cloquet player. So the second player swearing at me that the goalkeeper should have been sent off for the handling offense. So A, if it did happen, it wasn't so the goalkeeper wasn't going to get sent off. And then B, don't get in my face and use that kind of language with me. That's thoroughly inappropriate. No problem with that red card. And as for the kid on the bench threatening my 4th official, same thing as with the assistant referee. 4th official's got nothing else to protect himself with. So if you're going to get in my 4th official's face and threaten him, then you're going to get sent off. So I don't care if people were frustrated with the decisions that were made on the field. None of those actions are acceptable responses to that frustration. Let's go back to the original error, which was bad positioning. So I mentioned how tired I was at the end of the match, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody watching this saying, dry up my crocodile tears and just get better. So here's the bitter reality, okay? The average distance run by an English Premier League referee in a Premier League match, according to an article that was published in Runner's World, is around 6 to 8 miles, and that's over around 95 minutes of play. So that's about a mile every 13 minutes. Here's my GPS watch reading for this game, 5 2/3 miles over 80 minutes, which is an average of about 1 mile every 14 minutes. So my work rate in this match was almost Premier League level. And in comparison, most boys' high school matches that I've worked over the years usually end around 4.5 to 5 miles. So I had to work about 10 to 15% harder in this match due to the pace and intensity of it. Here's my cadence for this match. So that's the number of foot contacts with the ground. So every purple dot that you see there is a high intensity sprint, and I had 42 of those sprints in this match. So here's another boys match that I did earlier in the season. I did 4.35 miles in that game with 24 sprints. So I had 75% more high intensity sprints over 80 minutes in this game than I did in an average boys high school match during this season. So I worked my aging ass off in this section final. When I worked this game, I was 2 weeks from turning 49 years old. I've been an official now for 25 years, and while I've only had a couple minor to moderate injuries over that time with no joint problems, knock, 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 I can assure anyone watching this that when you are 49, exerting yourself like that for 80 minutes is not the same as doing it when you're 39 or 29. For those of you who want to scream at me for not working hard enough in the final minute, I accept my failure to read this play, and I apologize first and foremost to my assistant for putting him in an impossible situation, and I apologize to the Denfeld team for not being where I needed to be to give them at least my judgment that they deserved on this play. Whether it would have gone their way or not, I should have been the one to make that call. I can be better than what I showed in this game critical moment, so I accept fault for that. But what I don't apologize for here is my effort. And frankly, my guess is most of the people who are complaining about me being lazy perhaps on this play have probably never done 5 2/3 miles on a high school boys match and probably can't. Every week I read a new article about how every sport is short referees, and for all the armchair refs and parents who want to tell me after watching this clip that I suck, my response is get your lazy ass off your couch or your folding chair by the side of the field and get out there and referee games. If you aren't willing to walk the walk, then go whine about it on Reddit or 4chan because you have zero authority or knowledge to be critical. You're just lazy, and you're probably too much of a coward to try anything difficult and put your own reputation on the line, like the hundreds of officials who are out there working your kids' games all summer and all fall. Here's the reality, folks. I was the center in this game because our local association talked it over, and we felt that this was the best assignment for this game considering who was available. Should a 49-year-old be trying to keep up with 17-year-old rabbits in an even match that's going to decide a state berth, I will be the first person to tell you no. I am not the best choice if you would consider that there are more athletic people out there, but those athletic people weren't available for this game. In my area in Duluth, we have a thriving pair of adult soccer leagues with over 150 players under the age of 40, that's 10 years younger than I was, participating in those leagues. We have a total of 4 people who play in those leagues and also referee. Youth sports officiating is going over a cliff right now because all of the people who played youth sports in the 1990s, the aughts, and the teens have refused to give back to the sports that they played. Youth sports participation is exploding in this country, but all of you who have played and not officiated, you are failing your sport. When you played, there were adults like me who stepped forward to make sure that you had an official for your games. And now this generation of kids needs you, and honestly, you're just too chicken shit to do what I did for you when you played. One of the arguments I always get from adult league soccer players or parents when I challenge them to become an official is they say, I don't have the time, and my answer to you is bullshit. You aren't fooling me. For adult players, working just 1 game a week as a referee is the same time commitment you put in to playing your 1 game a week in your leagues over the summer. For parents, we ask you to come out 1 night a week and do a JV game or something, and you can't do it because you just want to sit in front of the TV and watch Love Island or The Housewives of Bemidji or some other reality TV garbage with your free time. The reality is that the day is coming where sports are going to have to decide if youth games even need officials, because there aren't going to be any. If they do need officials, then there will simply have to be fewer games, which means your sons and your daughters, or your grandsons and your granddaughters, won't be able to play high school sports. In my area, a look at 1 week of high school games showed 68 assignments covered by 21 referees. That's an average of just over 3 games a week. Of those 21 referees, 4 of them are under 45. Half of them are over 55. These old guys can't keep going into battle. You ask a 65-year-old to work 3 or 4 games a week, they're going to pull up lame. And that's one less official to fill one of those 68 assignments. You cannot ask 65-year-olds to run 5.5 miles and do 40 sprints a game. And if somebody doesn't step forward, well, then that 65-year-old is going to be out of position on a game-deciding call in a section final. So I guess you're all just going to have to accept it. Don't whine about it to me, because I'm done asking people to become officials. I'm a cause and effect guy, and you're about to see the effect of refusing to see officiating as an essential and limiting resource on youth athletics. Of course, the game moves faster than a lot of its officials, so you can be part of the solution, or you can just be another whiner about the problem. That's it for now. I'm going to talk about that coach card and put it in context with another clip that somebody sent me the next time I publish one of these. So we'll see you then.